Because we had our podcast,
Thursday.
Thursday or Friday last week?
It was Thursday.
And that like just happened, and now everything that's happened over the weekend. And dude, it's just a, really unfortunate, sad scenario. It was just terrible, dude. It was just terrible. So, I mean, if you want to go deeper into it, I mean, from my perspective, dude, it's just the frustrating part is I want everyone to get a fair shot at everything.
Yeah.
Or to have justice be the same, at least. So
equality.
Like our lives growing up, we've both worked very hard to get where we're at in life. You know what I mean? But if I mess up versus you messing up, it could be anything.
Different, right?
The law enforcement, the legal system, whatever it is different for each of us. And I want it to be the same. Like, if that happened to a white guy, or if just certain scenarios, I'm not even just talking about this one in particular. This is more of this happened and it sheds light on the issues that's been happening. If something happens to a white guy, it's not the same scenario of running into a police officer, the legal system, and whatnot. That's kind of the thing I was thinking over the weekend in conversations I was having with my friends. So I'm just hoping that you didn't want this to be the case,
right?
That this had to happen for change to happen and move forward. But you're hoping some positive can come out of it then.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, this is something that's been going on for decades.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember as a kid seeing certain things happen between law enforcement and my father. I've had my own personal experiences with it as well. Cousins, brothers. I mean, it's almost become second nature to minorities in that regard. But it's to the point now where, because it's happening more frequently and because the cameras are actually catching it, because that's the difference too. A lot of people were naive to the fact, we talked about this before, even with the minority coaching hires and stuff like that. People would like to just turn a blind eye to it and just say, well, man, if I'm not really seeing it, it's not really happening. But in reality, it's been happening for
everyone's got their
time.
Own story. People want to spin it however they want to spin it.
Yeah, it's been going on for a long time. It's just now that the cameras are being pulled on these individuals as these actions are taking place. Well, now it's starting to shed a light on it. And a lot of people, they're not very comfortable with that, because it makes it actually reveals to them that this isn't a perfect world that we're living in. I mean, as much as we love America and as much as the awesome country that it is, there are flaws in it. And this kind of sheds light on it. And in terms of, the people protesting, I think that that's important. It's good to see that people have said that enough is enough, but more so than just saying enough is enough, it's a unified protest in terms of, prior to this, I mean, because let's be real, we've seen protests. Shoot, just a year ago when Antoine Rose was killed in Pittsburgh by a police officer, there were protests here, but it was mainly minorities. It didn't have the same type of national support along with it. When we saw the situation in Ferguson, or we saw the situation in Baltimore, I mean, we can go down the list over the past 2 years, how many unlawful murders happen from police brutality to minorities. We've seen this on numerous occasions with videos, but it would just be the protests in that particular area. I mean, I think it was yesterday, they said it was 142 cities that were protesting at the time. 142. For me, that's why I'm a little more encouraged that this time could be different. I do think that when you look at the amount of support it's received from a national standpoint from both people that are minorities and people that aren't minorities, I think that's the huge part in terms of how the change can happen. But I think it's also important to understand too, we aren't in a position, none of us, and this minorities included, to say how a person should react or not react in terms of, man, protesting is cool, but now rioting, that's too much, or burning, this is too much of that. I mean, I equate it to this, right? If I just came over here and just punched you, you can react any way you want to react. I can't tell you that, hey, you shouldn't cry. I can't tell you that, hey, you shouldn't punch me back. I can't tell you that, hey, you shouldn't sit there. You're going to react the way that you feel is necessary, the way that you're comfortable reacting. And for some people, if they want to scream and holler, scream and holler. For some people, if they want to go this route, they're going that route. Ultimately, man, the end of the day, they just want to be heard. And I think that's the most important part with this, man, is hearing the voice and ultimately taking the steps to implement change. Protesting is cool. In terms of the burning and destroying the property, I understand that could be a little too much. But at the end of the day, make sure you're taking steps after this to change it, because we've seen protesting before. We've seen people standing in solidarity before. We've seen it all. But has anything really changed from that? No, because we haven't taken the next steps in terms of getting out and voting, getting more involved with social justice systems and things like that, and social justice reform and all these other policies and different nonprofits that work in that field. If you really want to make a change, we have to get out there and do that. It's important that it's a we thing and not a you versus me thing, because a lot of times too, people like to divide right now. It's, hey, is it you or is it us? Like, who is it, man? What side are you on? I don't think it's about that. I think it's more so, man, you got to unify, and you have to have that base premise of love, man, that you want everybody around you to be better, that you want the quality of life to be better, not only for you, but for the next generation.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this is the same stuff that the generation before us talked about. I mean, you think about what Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, what they were doing, what they were fighting for. It's the same thing going on right now. Same exact thing, man. So it's important that we learn from these situations and ultimately take the steps to make this place better going forward.
You're right, dude. This does have a different feeling. I do feel more hopeful about going forward, that there might actually be some change. I don't know how that's going to take place. I don't think any of us are completely sure, but I think on both sides, in terms of hearing voices or having voices be heard and listening, I think that is the direction we are going, and that is definitely a positive. So,
well, and I'll say for me, when we're talking about what can implement that change, how can it go about? The first part is the conversation. I think the protesting / rioting has ultimately got the ear of America. I think that was the first part, because now people that aren't minorities are more willing to listen. They're like, okay, man, we see y'all are pretty fed up. We understand this is a big deal. We see the injustice going on now. Our eyes are open.
We saw this was terrible.
Right. And it's like, regardless of what's happened before, because people will say, well, how did you not notice beforehand? Regardless of all of that, we have your attention now. That's the first step. Now, from there, you start to have these conversations. Now, from there, you go out and you try to have civil conversations with the police officers, the different ride-along programs that we were doing as a Steelers and as an NFL as a whole, to communicate, okay, what is it? What are you thinking when you're coming up to this stop? Okay, this is what I'm thinking. Okay, well, how can we make that better? How can we make this more cohesive, so that way we're not having any things where you're feeling your life is in danger, or I'm not feeling that my life's in danger? That's a step. Like I said, getting out and working with some of these programs that work on educating the inner cities, working on educating the minorities on how to handle certain situations. That's another step. The police training, I think that's another step that they can go in and ultimately not even critique, but find ways to improve that in certain instances. And then, man, lastly, making sure the people that you have in office, and not just from a presidential standpoint, because it's not about that, but when you're talking about the changes that affect the local offices.
That's what I was talking earlier, like just the legal system.
Yeah, like that's not presidential. That's local. That starts at our level. That's when you have to get out there and vote. You can't just wait for a presidential election to vote. No, you have to vote at these primaries, these other little elections like that, man. So that way you can control who is going in there. You're getting the right candidates in there for these type of situations.
Yeah, because everything could be good with the police and minorities, or just the public in general. Everything could be good there. But then there's a next step of, all right, I don't want to go in through the police or get arrested because the legal system's going to screw me now. It's got to kind of be both, because that's definitely got to be playing a part of it too, where, man, if I get arrested or if I get taken in by the police, no matter what I'm doing for whatever reason, I don't feel like there's going to be justice on that part either. So it's a combination of all these things.
Yeah, man. But like I said, the biggest thing starts with the conversation. And I'm glad that we are having this platform to have that conversation. But ultimately, for everybody that's out there that's in support of the movement, I think it's important that you understand that, man, the conversation is first, but now what are the next steps we can be taking? And don't look at the whole Black Lives Matter movement as, man, we're segregating other issues, because it's no different with your body or with your car. This is not saying that this is the only issue in America. We talked about how a couple of years ago we fought for the LGBT community, and before that you were fighting for the Me Too movement. I mean, each thing that comes up is pressing, but what is taking the president right now? What is more important right now? Right now, it's the Black Lives Matter movement. So in that regard, that's why the focus is that. It's not saying that, hey, man, police officers shouldn't, get support and they shouldn't have this. They will, and their time has come as well. But that's just how it goes. If you go to the doctor's office because your heart's messed up, do you really want to hear him talking about your ankle? No, not at all. You want to hear him talking about, hey, man, fix my heart. I'm jacked up right now. If you're taking your car in because your carburetor is bad and he's talking about, man, hey, check out your tires. I don't want to hear about my tires. My tires are fine. This carburetor, I can't go with this. That's the thought process right now with the whole Black Lives Matter movement, man. It's not saying that none of these other issues are important. It's just saying that this is more pressing right now.
Yeah, you could look, that was a good comparison. The body is almost society / humankind. Like this is a part of what's going on right now, and this is something that should be focused on. I mean, we're witnessing it right in front of our eyes. It'd be, I guess, a bad look or just bad to do if we're not confronting it. You know what I mean? If we're looking the other way, I guess it's something that's happened in the past, but we've been talking about this. I do really feel like this could be a moment that positive change is happening going forward. It seems like we're all unified in this instance. Yeah,
this time, like I said, does feel a lot different. So we will see, man, as things progress. But the biggest thing is, man, just continue the conversation, continue to operate out of love, and continue to just try to unify, man. It's all about bringing everybody together because we want everybody to feel good. We want everybody to enjoy being an American, which they should. And don't hit us with the same, man, well, if it's that bad, just leave. Because that's the problem with society now, man. We always want to cut and run when something gets difficult. No, eventually you have to face your problems. Eventually you have to stand up and say, man, if this is worth fighting for, well, let me go fight for it then.
Yeah, as a whole, Americans been good, great, whatever, but we can get better, just like everyone can get better. So why not? There's going to be a little bit of pain, hurt, like a breaking point, but that's what it takes to grow. So let's do it.
But I say you can't grow without having to struggle, man. With no struggle, there is no progress, man. So that's a part of it, man. But like I said, definitely think this is a step in the right direction, and hopefully we will start to see change from that. But it's not going to happen overnight. We all know that.
I think that's one of the frustrating things too. Is this has been, like you mentioned way at the beginning, hundreds of years in the making. So the progress could be slower than what we want, but still progress. You keep chipping away, just like if you're working out or trying to lose weight, all those type. It's just like a principle.
Doesn't happen overnight,
keep
man.
Chipping away at it, and it's gonna happen.
Yeah, man. So this is good though, man.
It's good talking about it. It was good talking about it because it was a minute since we had the podcast and that happened. We didn't really get to talk about it at all. So
and it's been a lot that's been transpiring since then, man. And like I said, we're not trying to make it a political thing because that's not the case. This is a human thing, though, man. In terms of you want to see everybody do well. You want to see everybody be treated equally. Yeah. That's what this is about.
100%.
Less about policies. I mean, not policies, but less about the politics in terms of who's in office, Democrat, Republican, and all that stuff. This isn't this type of conversation.